Hello and welcome. This is going to be a visual podcast where I'm going to go over some of the pots that I made and show you the glaze results and the final results, how they look like, and share some of the process, how it was achieved, so you can see the different clay and glaze combination, the different application of the surface decoration, and see how the results turned out from my recent pottery making, which was basically my work in 2022. I fired at the end of the year and the glaze fired in January. Haven't shared the results yet, so stay tuned to watch it. So let's start with this square. So this is a fluted square pot, about I should probably bring a ruler to measure it, but yeah, like you can see that all the edges are cut out like that. That's why we call it fluted. Even though fluted originally in pottery means where basically this kind of a mark is made by using a tool and cutting into the clay. This is more like a design name than a technique at this point. So this pot was made from red clay, and I used a matte macadamia glaze, which I really like. It's got a nice feeling to it. It's not shiny and reflective, as you can see. So the colors remain consistent in the daylight and any light. You look at it, and it's got a lot of interesting sides where you can see, if you want to have more of a classic look, you can pick that side. If you want some dynamic movement of the brush stroke, you can pick other sides. And the feet are also fluted. I found a new way of doing it, better way. So they're not cracking anymore like they used to for me. And that's made the whole process much easier. So one drainage hole, and then it has the wire tie down holes as well. It's quite heavy. It's gonna hold the tree nice and stable. So let's put that one down. And this one is a very fun shape. It's kind of like a squarish pot, something between an oval and a square. And it has very small feet. So this was made on the potter's wheel, and then after I trimmed the feet and made like this band for the feet, the clay was still wet enough that I was able to pull on the sides here and kind of stretch it into this irregular shape, which I think is quite fun, and it would be a nice pot because the lip is slightly raised when you look at it horizontally, and each side is different, as well as it often happens because this is a hand glazed pot, so it's not regular, like a very solid one layer of color. It has this variegation of color. And the same glaze combo, but different application, a little bit of a thicker application and different placement in the kiln. And this happened. So here, this glaze is actually much more matte, not as transparent or translucent even. It seems more solid. You can't see the clay underneath as much. It does break on the edges, showing this nice orangey outline, which I think it can correspond very nicely with some of the marks on the bark of some trees. So let me actually show you up closer. And it also has the marks of a handmade pot, hand glazed pot, because the glaze application, you can even see the difference in color. This was a little bit of a thicker glaze, and this is a little bit of a thinner glaze. And then on top there is another color as well. So it's a very classic and elegant little pot. We'll put this one here. And then similar but kind of like in between the other two, the same glaze application. So this is my soft blue glaze as a base, which, you know, is kind of a grayish, gloomy color. It reminds me of a misty morning, like, you know, when you look across the field or if you're by the lake shore, you can see this kind of a color in the morning when it's overcast and there isn't much sun coming out. So it is a very nice kind of like companion color for the plants. And those feet are a little bit different because you can see there is just a tiny bit of undercut under each foot. So they're not a straight cut. They have like the slight bump there. I don't know if you can see it. So it's a very subtle, elegant accent. It has a band on the top and a contrasting glaze on the top, as well as it has a slight little band on the bottom, which again brings out those lines of orange poking through. One of the best features of that glaze is how it shows those lines, the throwing marks. I left it out on purpose like this to show the throwing mark, because if I smooth it out too much, then the glaze will have no surface to break and show those beautiful lines. So it kind of reminds me of the bark or the rings on the tree when it grows, you know, or the layers in the stone. Very natural looking. It is one of my favorite pots at the moment. Like, that's glaze combo. As you can see, I really liked it because I've used it a lot. And here is one more. This one is just magical. What happened here? I don't know. Same glaze combination, same clay, red clay body, but something different happened, and it's kind of like a crystallization that occurred in some areas. So in some areas that are crystallized are more matte, and others are more shiny, and there's a lot of beautiful breaking through of the clay. In some areas it floods it, so it has this saturated look. And I really enjoy how like the contour of the band and the feet shows up in the glaze too. So it's almost like a painting, like a drawing. It's so cool. So they're relatively small, I would say, like smaller than my hand. Again, I don't know the dimensions exactly. But yeah, this one is really cool. And from the other glazed pots, another glaze that I used is a new glaze for me. I mean, I've used it years ago, but I haven't used it in a while. And this is a commercial glaze that's made by PSH. It's called Nicoladon, I believe. So the Nicoladon is just applied with brush, painted on this hand paint pot. So much beautiful color in that glaze. And then the crack is actually like visible because as I was pinching it, it was drying and it cracked, which I thought was really cool. And you can see the finger marks from the pinching, and where the clay is uneven, you can see that orange poking through that Nicoladon glaze. And this is more like a tripod, you know, feet. So it has 3 feet, and I think it would be very cool for an accent plant. This is the size that fits in the palm of my hand, little pinch pot. Lovely. Irregular too, like irregular lip. I left that out on purpose like that. And the same glaze, same technique, but I just played a little bit with the shape. This was a tiny little pinch pot, and I stretched out the sides and actually put 4 feet on this one, which is kind of like a Rosetta style. I really like that one. It's got this strong presence with the feet, but it's more like a, you know, like a little accent plant pot that I think, you know, it will complement the tree, but it won't take too much attention from it. And I can see it like in the fall show because those colors are really like, kind of like a autumn feeling. A lot of ombre colors, the burnt sienna, and some blue poking through, kind of like a stormy sky in the fall. So this is a beautiful glaze. If you're looking to purchase PSH Nicoledon, that's the name of it. And this is on a warm brown clay, so it's a little bit, it's not as red as the red, just to give you the comparison. But it's still kind of like a red clay, but a little bit darker. So here they are. And since we're talking pinch pots, I'll show you the last pinch pot I made, and I'm keeping this one because this was just so cool when it happened. I was making those pinch pots and teaching a class and trying to find a way to teach it the best, and I was also recording a video. And then I thought, why don't I just try to like stretch it out? I really like those pots that look like little bathtubs. And this was the idea, to kind of like have a different shape, because I had a round one, I had kind of like a squarish shape, and this is more like an oval. And but the cracks on this one are just so cool. So they are just a result of a natural dryness that happens when you pinch the pot, because when we use our hands so much and we touch the clay a lot, it draws the moisture from clay. So as it dries, you're gonna get those cracks. And often in pottery, and especially in making bonsai pots, we try to get the cracks. So we use the sodium silicate, for example, to get really nice cracks. But this didn't require any chemicals, it just happened naturally. So I really appreciate that process, how that occurred. So that brings me to another crack pot. That one actually it's an experiment, and I made it with the use of sodium silicate. It was built from the slab. And with the sodium silicate, I was able to get those nice cracks. And here you can see I've used black stain. So it's again red clay, but it has black stain on it. And I put the black stain, it's a PSH black underglaze. That's what it's called, actually. Sorry, not the stain. Because the stain is literally just a powder that you mix. So this is the black underglaze. And I painted it on, rubbed it off, and it got into the cracks, and I just wanted to have kind of like this metallic old look on the pot. So when you look at the lip from here, you can see it's really cool. It's like cracked bread. Reminds me of the bread loaves that my husband makes. And I also added some on the feet. So the feet have the cracking as well. And yeah, this is an experimental pot. I did a little bit of a edge on the ledge on the bottom to accentuate, make some interest between the feet and the wall. And it's an unglazed red. So this is the first unglaze, and I'm going to show you another red pot so this is an iron oxide. So what's the difference between iron oxide and the black underglaze? So I think first of all, the iron oxide, this is just painted on with the brush. I just went and around the pot. The iron oxide is more metallic when it fires. It's kind of like it has this feeling of metal, because it is a lot of iron in it. And versus the glaze, actually the underglaze feels more smooth and almost synthetic, I would say. And this feels more organic to me. So it's pretty interesting, to experiment with that. But the color-wise, they're very similar, and often red iron oxide is used in the cracked pots. So in this one that I was showing you earlier, I used the red iron oxide, and in this one I used the red underglaze. So I'll hold them together so you can see the difference, what happens. And with the stain, I can remove more or less, but notice how inside the cracks, what happens with the light, how the light is reflected from that red iron oxide. It's got this little bit of a shinier surface versus here in that underglaze, it kind of sits there. So it does not have that multi-dimensional feeling to it. And here, let's just take a quick look at that little guy. I think it's really sweet. Just a simple pottery wheel pot with the feet cut out and small incisions to separate the feet from the bottom of the pot and let the water drain. 1 hole and 4 tie-dye holes, and the little band of red iron oxide on top, small unglazed. And this is my first attempt on the drum pot. So this took me forever to make. If you really like this pot, let me know, make me an offer. I'm just gonna say it took me a long time to make it. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to part with it because it's my first attempt, and I'm still looking for a better way to make those pots that doesn't require as much time. But I'm really happy with the result because, again, I made the band, and over the band there is the dots placed, and then I used the red iron oxide to accentuate it. So it's a small little pot. And then from the red clay we have the nice and medium kind of a size, still on a small size, but more medium blue, classic blue, beautiful. I'm really happy with how this blue turned out, and it has a band. So this blue breaks in nicely over the band as well, similarly as like with the soft blue. You can see it kind of looks like an outline or like a contour where that clay is poking through the glaze, wherever there is any sort of texture. So very simple, you have a pot and a line. And then lastly, a very cool experience was to try a new clay from PSH that's called dark granite clay. And I saw somebody had it at the sale I was participating in last year. They had mugs made with that clay, and I was like, is this stone? This looks like stone, doesn't it? So here is a little hand-built, slab-built oval, quite thick, so that will hold water very well. And it's quite heavy, and it has a nice lip, and I just love the way it looks like it's made out of river rock. And the feet are matching the oval shape. And this is the last one that I decided to put out for sale. If anybody is interested in this one, it's a hexagon, also made out of the dark granite, and it looks like this stone texture, so it's unglazed. I wanted to keep the stone, and I used the black underglaze on the feet as well to accentuate. So it was a fun project. 6 feet. Feet take the longest in the pot making, and normally there's 4, here is 6. So that was interesting experience. And then the lip, so that's how it looks like from the inside on the bottom. And if you want to display it like this, or you could have it like facing the corner, so there is options. I think it's a really cool shape. I see a lot of trees in that, I could picture in my mind a lot of trees in the hexagonal shape. And here is few very cool pieces that I decided to keep. So I already showed you this little oval unglazed. Now this is kind of like a little square pot, but much smaller and more of a rounded shape. So I wanted to make it for an accent plant, and I am keeping the square, the big, like the blue square, because I have a maple tree that I think would look really good in this. or some sort of a deciduous, I'm not sure. And this would be a cool, actually like a matching pot. I don't know if that's something that is encouraged, or the companion pot should be different, but I think that's pretty cool like that. So those are the blues, and I wanted to show you this little wheel thrown pot, and this is a red clay, and the glaze I used for it is called Randy's Red. So it's an old classic from our Waterloo Potter's workshop recipe that actually I feel like it came out really nicely on this pot. That's why I want to keep it, because it's almost like black but with this warm, rich brown tone to it. And then in some areas we have some orange and red, and I can already see one of my ficus trees would look really good in that, the tiger bark ficus. So the tiger bark ficus has like little dots, actually like little lines on the bark, and they are very similar to that color. So I feel like it really like complements the tree, and the green leaves against this rich brown reddish orangey color. I think that's gonna look really cool. So I'm keeping that one, but there might be more of Randy's Red in the future. I think it's I used to use it a lot in dinnerware, like years ago, and then I just got tired of it and I never wanted to use it. So I got rid of my supply, but I got some recently from my friend, and I tried it, and I think for bonsai pots it looks beautiful. And here we have the result of my sgraffito experiments. So this is quite heavy. It's a bigger rectangle pot on the gray clay. So the gray doesn't really look gray. It kind of looks more like tan after being fired. And I did a sgraffito like layer of colored slip, and then a sgraffito inscription on the pot. And this pot, I made it for my burning bush. It reminds me of those pots in the Chinese palaces, you know, with with the Chinese kind of a bonsai penjing style. They would have a little bit of a deeper pot, and often they would have a green slip on top of it, and they would have some calligraphy on it. So my calligraphy, it's my first attempts, but I really enjoyed making it, and it was fun to do it. And I think the burning bush, the red with the green, it would look really cool. And also it's still tree in development, so I wanted to have a little bit more room for the roots to grow and for the trunk to thicken. So it wasn't quite ready for this like really, you know, low small pot. I wanted it to be a little bit deeper. So this is the design I came up with, and to hold it from collapsing, this is just like a support, but the feet are in the shape of the rectangle as well. Okay, so that's all the pots, well, almost all of them. I still have one more very special pot that I wanted to show you. And here it is. It's my turtle pot, or the turtle island as I call it. So this is quite heavy, also made from the dark granite. You can see unglazed and untouched by the oxide parts are stone-like. The turtle itself has been painted and wiped with red iron oxide to accentuate the crevices and all the details of the sculpting. So it's unglazed, dark granite with red iron oxide. If you wanted to see how this one comes out with the oxide, this is the look. And the pot I glazed with the turquoise matte glaze, and I think it turned out really cool. So the turquoise is unevenly painted on purpose as well, to kind of create the ocean feeling, and So here's the look from this side. It's split a little bit, has a crack here. So I might plant it this way. But I like the other side more, so I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just have to get over the fact that there is a crack there. And the idea is that the tree will go on top of the turtle, and they are already like, you know, root over statue style bonsai. When you get the statue and you put the tree on the statue, and then you have to find a pot. So I wanted to kind of have a 2-in-1 and just design them together, so I don't have to look for a pot for my statue. And actually I thought, like, why would I make a whole statue if part of it's going to be buried anyways? I can just attach it to the pot. So that's how I came up with this idea for this turtle island. And I'm not sure how well this design will work yet. I haven't tried it yet, but this is the tree that inspired it, and it's the natal ficus, or natal ficus, not the natal ficus. It's a natal ficus that I got from Nigel. So this ficus grows very good roots quickly. As you can see, like this root, which I'll probably have to trim off, is already as thick as the trunk. And I only had this tree, this is the second year, so 1.5 years. It was a cutting, and the tree grew quite a bit in that time, but the roots are really impressive, like how quickly they grow. So I thought, wouldn't that be cool to actually have a tree on the turtle and have those roots kind of go into the crevices of the shell. So I'm hoping to do it this spring with this ficus over here, and see how that goes. Why I'm not too sure if it will work well is because this is attached to the pot, the sculpture is attached to the pot. That means I will not be able to remove it to do root pruning, any root pruning that happens, the growth that happens in the pot. So, and I don't really know how that's gonna go, but I just wanted to try it like this and see what happens. So, here's the turtle and the ficus. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions and or comments.